Financial security. What does it mean? It means you have enough saved to weather a crisis. It means you are able to sustainably buy a home for your family. It means you can sleep at night knowing you'll have a comfortable retirement. It means that you're able to buy a car so you can travel to your new job. In short, financial security is the difference between getting by and getting ahead. Woodstock Institute works to make sure that all people can achieve financial security. That means that low-wealth people and people of color should not be stuck with a separate and unequal financial system.
Woodstock Institute's mission is to create a financial system in which everybody has an opportunity to access fair and affordable financial services. Our vision is that everyone, including low-wealth people and people in communities of color, will have a chance to have a safe place to put their money, a place to borrow, a place to build assets like buy a home or start a business, go to college, save for retirement, and have a prosperous, vital community.
How do we make that world a reality?
Woodstock has an interesting model. We use the Chicago region or the state of Illinois as our laboratory for an experiment, and we take publicly available data or private information and see how particular financial products or services or policies are affecting people in Chicago or Illinois, and then use that as a basis to see what policy changes might be needed or what new products or services might be needed at the local, state, and national levels.
It's a simple model, but the impact can be huge.
I had a really interesting phone call a few months ago from a former client, somebody we worked with in the past, and he had just gone into his bank and found out that he was being charged $12 a month for the privilege of having his Social Security checks directly deposited into his bank account. When your total income is only $694 a month, $12 a month is critical. And so I thought, I don't know if there's anything here, but I know who I can call. I know I can call Dory Rand over at the Woodstock Institute.
The monthly maintenance fee that Chase was charging applied to all customers who did not deposit at least $500 per month through direct deposit or have other substantial assets in the bank. Having access to affordable basic checking and savings accounts is really important because that's usually the first step towards building assets and creating economic security. So we don't want banks to impose fees that basically keep people out of mainstream financial services system.
The first response from Chase was not at all reassuring.
We contacted Chase's bank regulator, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and said that we didn't think they were living up to their obligations under the Community Reinvestment Act to provide services to people at all levels of the community.
And the people at Chase headquarters agreed that they were going to come into town and meet with the Woodstock Institute and meet with us and be on the phone with other advocates throughout the country. And at that meeting, things began to change.
Well, we were very pleased that Chase made a pretty quick decision to find a way to change the policy so it would not have such a severe impact on people with low income from disability payments. And they expanded the waiver to all persons who can directly deposit $500 or more in aggregate per month.
And I couldn't be more pleased, my client couldn't be more pleased. To be able to make this kind of impact is huge. This could not have happened, this change could not have happened, would not have happened without the expertise, the persistent years of developing relationships, years of developing knowledge that Woodstock has.
For Foreclosures have impacted communities across the county. It's no longer an issue that just impacts low-income communities or places where housing may be distressed. The Cook County Mediation Program was really designed to be a tool for the judges and for the court, and that's the important thing to remember. It gave the judges somewhere to send people who showed up at court and said, I don't know what to do, and I got here and I don't know what to do with all of these letters that keep coming to my house. We knew that in order to get people to understand what services they had the right to receive, we needed to go to them and not just assume that they were going to be figuring these things out for themselves.
In the outreach component, outreach workers go out to a home that has had a foreclosure filing in Cook County. They are attempting to talk to the homeowner and let them know about the helpline, the free services with a housing counselor, the legal aspect of that as well, and to just let them know they're not alone. The term and the situation foreclosure carries a lot of shame with it for homeowners, and a lot of times they feel isolated and alone, very intimidated by the process and what it actually means. So having someone go out face to face and be able to relate to them and let them know they're not alone, it carries a heavy weight with it.
Woodstock helps with the mediation program in a couple of ways. One way is we get data about new foreclosure cases that have been filed in the Circuit Court of Cook County and create a spreadsheet that nonprofit organizations use to go out in the neighborhoods and knock on doors and make sure that people are aware of their rights to participate in mediation and possibly modify their mortgage loan to a more affordable rate or work out some other exit strategy.
Woodstock's work in this program has really made it possible for groups who haven't had the capacity and the time to gather that data, and you've made it accessible to us in a very easy to use, user-friendly way. We're able to take that information and hit the streets within the week that we get it.
Woodstock is the only organization that has done a thorough analysis year over year of the number of foreclosures filed, the number of foreclosures in the pipeline, how long that process is taking in court, the concentration in certain communities of foreclosure. I mean, those are vital statistics to determine how you're going to move forward.
Woodstock is a jewel when it comes to the work that we do.
CRA was created within the context of redlining in the late 60s and early 70s. Redlining was the process whereby banks would look at communities, particularly low-income communities, and literally draw a red line around that and decline any loans that were applied for within that area. The effect of redlining was that credit essentially dried up in those communities, making it impossible to buy a home and to start a small business.
Before the latest financial crisis, saw a lot of communities get new investments in terms of whether it was single-family homes or commercial properties, and we really saw a rebuilding of local communities' economies.
The Chicago Community Loan Fund is a private, nonprofit financial services intermediary that provides loans to for-profit and nonprofit community developers and social enterprises. The banks are encouraged and incentivized through the Community Reinvestment Act to invest in community development financial institutions like CCLF.
The CRA is really dependent on the relationship between deposit-taking financial institutions and the communities that they serve. When deposits have migrated out of financial institutions that are traditionally covered by the CRA, so they've gone from banks and thrifts to investment firms, to retirement savings companies, to insurance companies, to mortgage companies. In many cases, those are the financial institutions that are really creating a lot of the wealth building opportunities within our communities. So as we see deposits leave institutions that are covered by CRA, it's important to expand CRA to cover the entire range of financial services so the wealth building opportunities can continue to flourish.
Having new actors that heretofore have not been incentivized by CRA would bring a number of large financial services firms into the fold in lower wealth communities. We would have a larger array of investors and funders so that we could increase our loan size, we could significantly increase our loan volume, and also have a wider panoply of partners to pull into the projects as follow-on and take-out lenders.
Woodstock Institute's research, policy development, and advocacy activities have been critical to expanding CRA and to making sure that CRA is modernized in a way that those financial institutions can continue to be accountable. In many cases, CRA exams come and go, and very few organizations even know about it. Woodstock's role is really to communicate advocacy opportunities to community development stakeholders in the Chicago region to make sure that when a comment period opens for a financial institution, that they can really work with regulators to help them better understand how well a bank is serving its communities.
When we're trying to educate our elected officials and other policymakers about the importance of CRA in general or the urgency of CRA reform, we turn to the Woodstock Institute for their research, for their data, for their just-in-time, real-time analyses of financial trends and outcomes that impact the communities that we serve.
We've just been through a huge economic upheaval. People say that the recession is over, but I don't think that average people feel that it is. The recession has been coupled with a collapse in the real estate market that occurred because lending was occurring outside of the old traditional rules that really did well by the United States. Woodstock has not only documented the numbers and percentages associated with the foreclosure activity, but it's also helped inform legislation to ensure that we don't fall into the same trap again. We are able to span from the neighborhood level up to city government, up to state government, up to the federal government in our advice on policies and rules.